The focus of federal politics flicked back to the carbon tax today. The multi-party committee hammering out its details met in Canberra. One of the burning questions yet to be settled is what the starting price will be. Tomorrow, the government will release a report that says carbon will have to be $40 a tonne to shift power production from burning black coal to gas. But the Climate Change Minister, Greg Combet, says the price will be well south of that. Earlier, Chris Uhlmann spoke with the Greens leader Bob Brown and asked if $40 a tonne is about right.
Well, it is for getting that outcome, but the question is what is the carbon price going to be when you add other complementary measures to it? And I'll be interested to see the Deloitte report when we get it, presumably tomorrow, a day or two after Martin Ferguson has had it, the minister, and his friends in the big end of town who apparently given it to the Australian.
But what do you think the price should be?
Well, the price should be one that gives us the best reduction in the extraordinary pollution in Australia. We're the biggest per capita polluter for any similar country in the world. We've got the biggest coal exports. We are prodigious burners of fossil fuels. So the price should be the best one that can be levied given the current political circumstances in Australia.
So higher than $40 a tonne?
Sorry?
Higher than $40 a tonne?
Well, I can't tell you what that figure will be because other things do come into play, like what you're going to do in terms of stimulating renewable energy, how you're going to treat transport, whether you're going to stop destroying forests and woodlands, which create up to 20%
Many of those things also come with costs, though, don't they? Your complementary measures that you're talking about, which would be giving subsidies to renewable energies, for example, come at cost to the taxpayer.
Chris, at the moment we give, after years of the Howard government and lesser years of Labor, we give $11 billion of subsidies to the polluting fossil fuel industries. For example, $1.7 billion to the coal mining industry so that they pay 38 cents a litre less for their fuel than the average punter in Australia.
So you're talking about the diesel fuel rebate scheme?
That's a component of it, but I emphasise that the big coal industry, largely owned outside Australia, pays 38 cents less than the average Australian, including small business people, for its fuel because of this massive subsidy going to actually promote pollution.
But that subsidy also goes to farmers, it goes to hospitals, it goes to nursing homes. So you would withdraw that as well to subsidise some of the complementary measures?
600 million goes to farmers, a tiny fraction, which we would keep in place. But when it comes to this massive subsidy, multi-billion subsidy to the mining industry, which under current trajectory is going to get billions more out of a reduction in its taxes next year, we've got to look at all that money pouring overseas instead of producing a clean green economy here in Australia.
The money doesn't just go overseas. In fact, it's helping to fuel what's the second mining boom, which is going to drive this economy into the future. A lot of money will be reaped in Australia by what happens in the mining industry, won't it?
Well, some. Xstrata sends, it's almost 100% owned overseas, Rio Tinto 70%, BHP
And the activity
40%.
in this economy is going to be extraordinary over the next few years, which will drive investment, which will drive dollars coming into the economy.
So the Greens challenge the big parties to recoup that money along lines put by Conservative Treasury, which would be a super profits tax, but they won't do it. Tony Abbott wouldn't collect $1 of that. He wants to put all the impost onto households and keep benefiting the big polluters, you know.
But you talk about it as though that you tax the big polluters and it doesn't end up in households. You wouldn't have to compensate people if it didn't end up as being a cost to households, would you?
There are flow-on costs.
They pass those costs on. And the complementary measures that you're talking about,
at the moment, householders are paying these big polluters $11 billion in subsidies, which is about the amount that will be recouped under a carbon price system, if you look at some of the figures. But the householders are paying for it now. What we are here saying is householders want us to tackle the dangers of the climate change, which is caused by big pollution.
And they would
we'll do that.
Sure, and they would like to know what the cost is going to be, not just the carbon price, but also the complementary measures, some of which will mean costs for households.
Yes, and that will be compensated under the proposals
The complementary measures as well as the carbon price.
That'll be compensated.
All of it.
We are going to compensate households, but Tony Abbott will not. He's going to put all the money from households into the big polluters, estimate $720 per household by the end of this decade, and either that or reduce 100,000 jobs in the country, or start closing hospital wards and schools to fund the big polluters. We will not do that.
That $11 billion that you're talking about is money that he would forego in the mining tax, and I noticed that you started your budget and reply speech just there. How would you replace the $50 billion a year in export income which comes by way of coal, an industry that you'd shut down?
Well, a lot of that money is bouncing straight back out to shareholders overseas.
A lot of that money is circulating in the economy. It's creating jobs, Senator. It's bouncing through to our cities.
Yeah, Chris, and what we would do is take the advice of the Treasury of this nation and recoup the $145 billion over the next 10 years through a super profits tax. Tony Abbott
says you can't recoup it if you shut the industry down. If you shut down the coal industry, there won't be that money available to you.
Sorry, Chris, Treasury has no intention of shutting the industry down.
No, but you do.
It tends to... no, I'm not.
Well, didn't you say back in 2007 that we had to kick the coal hat?
No, I did not. You're looking at the Murdoch press, where I said back in 2007 we should look at coal exports with a view to phasing them out down the line. Now,
it wasn't Murdoch press, it was a comment piece that you wrote. So you want to phase out the coal industry?
The world is going to do that because it is causing massive economic damage down the line through the impact of climate change. Now, let me...
But the simple question is, how do you replace $50 billion worth of export income?
You go to renewables over the coming decades, and you do that by exporting. Look, Germany did this. It's closed its coal mines. It's closing its nuclear power stations, by the way. It's got into exporting renewables, including using Australian technology, and it's created 350,000 jobs and a multi-billion-dollar export industry in Australia. China's going to have as many solar panels by 2020 as the whole world has now, using, again, a mix of technologies, including those from Australia, while this country is captivated by the old polluting industries which are making climate change worse. Now, we can do much better than that. This is a resource-rich country. We should follow 37 other countries, take some of the money from those resource riches, put it into a sovereign fund and make sure this country can be educated, wealthy and wise into the future.
Bob Brown, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.